thesis. Ah, the big one, right? So the thesis is the sentence that controls your entire essay. It is what communicates your message to your audience, right? It goes at the very end of the introduction paragraph always. It is one sentence for short essays, which we will only write short essays in this class. And it really has two components. Part of the essay is the subject, the narrowed subject that you have chosen to write about. And then the second part of the thesis is the attitude. What are you going to tell us about that? Some people call that a critical opinion. Again, it can vary, right? So you can see here on this subject here, the example, my example is subject is gardening. And what am I going to tell you about gardening? It benefits people in many ways, right? Now, you're not always going to clearly see the audience in the thesis. Sometimes you do. High school seniors who want to do better in college will, right? Okay, well, that's who I'm talking to, right? I could put that in thesis. But sometimes the audience is established in the introduction before you get to your thesis because it's not easy to just stick everything in there, right? Thesis statements, though, are not statements of fact. SSC raised tuition this year. That's a fact. What can I say about that? That might be something that I put in my introduction to help establish my topic, but it's nothing but a fact, right? They're not statements of the obvious. Students don't like paying tuition, right? I mean, well, duh. People say, well, yeah, so there's nothing surprising about that. And it's not an announcement of intent. You never say, in this essay, I will, or my reason for writing about this is, right? We never say that. Just state the topic, right? The last thing here, or the next thing here, is about narrowing your subject. Again, you need to find something that you can write about. I think this topic is fine. I don't think there's as much narrowing because you're talking about what can you volunteer. But here's the thing. You need to focus on one skill set. You don't want to talk about everything you could possibly do. That's way too broad. Pick something that you're good at, that you have some kind of talent or skill, some shareable information, right? And just write about it. Don't try to cover everything because, again, we don't have that much space. This is a short essay. And again, you can see the rest of these. You can also see that in the essay here, this is the sample essay on volunteering. You can see that this student said for their thesis, what happened to me during my time volunteering, though, transformed my life and gave me new direction. So whatever they're going to talk about, their essay has to be, every single body paragraph in this essay has to show how it transformed this person's life or it gave them new direction, right? So this is what this is going to be about. So for your next part of your assignment, write down your working thesis. Doesn't have to be perfect, right? Just make sure you know what it is. And also identify who possible audience would be. So if you look here, I've given you an example from the sample essay. And the audience could be one of two groups: adults who have the power to force children to volunteer and people who have been forced to volunteer. If you've read the sample essay, you know that in the introduction, the author talks about how they were always voluntold to do things. You know, they didn't, you know, either a teacher or their parents or some organization made them volunteer. And so they didn't like volunteering because it was something they were forced to do. It wasn't something that they saw, they felt a need for, right? And so part of this person's message is about trying to get people to volunteer because they see how great it is, how important it is, right? And then the purpose, you can see the rest of these things, okay? So walk through this. It should answer most of your questions. But again, email me if you have a question still. So let's go into step 3, drafting.